Hello, this is Robert Messina, and I want to comment on the fact that Job wanted to curse the day he was born, even though he was a man privileged at the time when very few people knew that Redeemer lives and certain people were going to be able to, and he included himself. He said, I will see him in even though I am dead and there's no nerves in my body. So he knew he had his Redeemer, and then he curses the day he's born. He knew that, and he cursed the day. There's a conflict there, and I think there's something more to it. And I think that the day he's cursing the day he was born, not so much for himself, but for somebody else, which if you keep listening to this, I'll mention. Judas. Okay, so let's just start reading it. It's the best way to understand it. There was a man in the land of Uz, U-Z, Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. Now, Uz has the terminology of being a wooded area. It also is applied to an area where men take advice and they counsel and they're together and they sort of like talk back and forth, exactly like what's going to be happening to Job and his three friends. And Uz was a man who was the son of Aram, who was the grandson of Shem, just to let you know who he was. And there were born to, verse 2, there were born unto Job 7 sons and 3 daughters. 3, his substance also was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all men in the east. 4, and his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. 5, and it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, rose up early in the morning, offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did continually. So this guy is a righteous man. You could see he's righteous, and the Lord attributes that righteousness to him. And we're going to be reading about that. Now, verse 6, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said to Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and from the earth, and from walking up and down in it. 8, and the Lord said to Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that fears God and eschews evil? 9, then Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for nothing? 10, has not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he has on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance, and is increased in the land? 11, but put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he has, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he has is in thy power. Only upon thyself put not forth thine hand. For Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord after that. So he was allowed to destroy everything he had, but he wasn't allowed to kill him. 13. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, Oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabaeans fell upon them, and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Now the Sabaeans were descendants of Ra'aman, grandson of Cush, who was a descendant of Ham. All right, just to let you know that. 16. While the messenger was yet speaking about what happened to the cattle, while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven and has burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and only I am escaped alone to tell thee. Now, when that guy was yet speaking, there was another. 17. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. And if that wasn't enough, 18. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house. And it fell upon the young men, they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle, shaved his head, fell down upon the ground, and worshipped. 21. And said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, the Lord took away, and blessed be the name of the Lord. 22. And in all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion of when in time this happened. I think the children of Israel were in Egypt at the time, and I can tell from the name, at least one of the names of the 3 friends of Job. One of them was named Eliphaz, who was a Temanite, and a Temanite came from the original Eliphaz, Esau's son. So Eliphaz, the original, had a son Teman, and Eliphaz, a couple of generations later, was named with that same name, Eliphaz, and he was a Temanite. So because of that, I could see that it's a few generations from Esau, who was twin brother of Jacob. So the same time Jacob was born, he was born, and then they started to multiply. And while Jacob was multiplying in Egypt, Esau was multiplying where he lived in his area. Okay, so that's my take on it, and I don't think I'm wrong. So Job, what I'm getting at is Job never knew the commandments that God gave to Moses to give to the people. So he was outside of that. He wasn't even there. So he had what everybody had from the righteousness that he saw and lived up to was common for basically common for men at the time. For example, adultery was not accepted. Killing the guy for his wife so that you wouldn't commit adultery was accepted. I mean, that's that's what happened to Abraham. I mean, he didn't want to tell them that she was his wife because they would kill him and take him and take him. But because he said that he was his wife, they don't want it. They left him alone. So I'm just trying to tell you that it was very mixed up at the time, but those were kind of what the rules were, and adultery was definitely a rule that they didn't want to tread upon. Okay, just to let you know that. Okay, now let's go to the next chapter. Verse 1. Again there was a day. Now this is the second time there's a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. This was the second time. So there was the first time. After that first time, all of Job's possessions were taken away from him, including his children, and this time something else is going to happen, and he's going to go through another test. Verse 2. The Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said to Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that fears God and eschews evil, and still he holds fast his integrity? Although you, Satan, moved me to go against him, to destroy him without cause, he still maintained his integrity. 4. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, and all that a man has will he give for his life. 5. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. 6. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. 7. So Satan went from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot to his crown. And he took him potsherd. Job now took potsherd. Potsherd is a broken piece of pottery that has a sharp edge that is used they used it as a scraper. Job was using it to scrape the boils, to flatten the boils, to scrape them off. I don't know, it was hurting him, and that's what the potsherd was. And then he sat, 8 continued, and then he sat down among the ashes. 9, this is a memorable verse. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. So that's what his wife suggested that he do. And what does he return? He's 9? 10, I mean? But he said to her, Thou speaks as one of the foolish women speak. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all of this did not Job sin with his lips. Verse 11. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Naamathite, for they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. 12. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off, and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept, and they rent every one his mantle, and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. So they saw him from afar off, and they didn't recognize him. He was covered with the boils. They didn't even know who he was. And when they realized this guy that they're looking at is Job, they lift up their voice and they cry and they tear their clothes and sprinkle dust on their heads. Well, Job is sitting amongst the ashes. 13. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. Okay, so the next chapter, verse 1. And after this opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. And Job spake and said, Let the day perish wherein I was born, and let the night in which it was said, There is a man-child conceived. 4. Let that day be darkness. Let not God regard it from above, neither let the light shine upon it. Now it already happened, so I don't know. The light already hit that day. Sorry, Joe, but anyway, that's what he feels. That's how he feels right now. He wish it was a day that never happened. 5. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of that day terrify it. 6. As for that night, let darkness seize upon it. Let darkness seize upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. 7. Lo, let that night be solitary. Let no joyful voice come therein. Let them curse that curse. Let them curse that day. When they raise up that morning, let them curse that day. 8. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none. Neither let it see the dawning of the day. Because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from my eyes. 11. Why died I not from the womb? Why didn't I die at that time? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? 12. Why did the knees prevent me? Or why the breasts that I should suck? In other words, everything's continuing the way birth should happen, and I'm starting to suck the blood. I'm starting to live. I should have been dead. 13. For now I have lain still and been quiet. I should have slept. Then had I been at rest. 14. With kings and counselors of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves. 15. Or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver. So, in other words, these guys lived their life. They had the silver, gold. They had lots of places. They lived in luxury, and they died. And they weren't even righteous men, and they died. And they had their full life. And I'm born. And I see this. I'm born a righteous. I live righteously, and I wish I was never born. These guys never thought that. These guys lived. And they died, and whenever I would be, if I was gonna die a stillborn, I would be with them, in the land of the dead, after you die. I wouldn't have seen I wouldn't have seen this day that's on me right now. These boils, I wouldn't even have known them. There's nothing that can console me from what happened. 9. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none. Neither let it see the dawning of the day. 10. Because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from my eyes. 11. Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? Why did the knees prevent me, or why the breast that I should suck? So I just read that again because it's sort of like heavy right now on him. 23. Why is light given to a man whose way is hid, and whom God has hedged in? 24. For my sighing comes before I eat, and my roarings are poured out like the waters. 25. For the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me. 26. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. Then Eliphaz, the next chapter, then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, If we essay to commune with thee, wilt thou be grieved? But who can withhold himself from speaking? 3. Behold, thou hast instructed many, thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Thy words have upholden him that was falling. Thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. 5. But now it is come upon thee, and thou faintest. It touches thee, and thou art troubled. 6. Is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and thy uprightness of thy ways? 7. Remember, I pray thee, who ever perished being innocent? Or where were the righteous cut off? So whoever perished being innocent, it is what he's quoting here is an established fact that all have sinned and fell short of the glory of God. Okay, so all have sinned, and that's what they're basically getting at, and they're right about it, but that they're wrong in that all of this came upon him not because he sinned. And that's what he's going to maintain and try to make them try to understand that this didn't happen to him because he sinned. So they're right. His accusers are right, but they're not right in this case. So let's skip down to chapter 19. We'll start with verse 19. Job is saying, all my inward friends abhorred me, and they whom I loved are turned against me. 20. My bone cleaves to my skin and to my flesh, and I am escaped with the skin of my teeth. 21. Have pity upon me, O ye my friends, for the hand of God has touched me. 22. Why do you persecute me as God and are not satisfied with my flesh? 23. Oh, that my words were written, oh, that they were printed in a book. 24. That they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock forever. 25. For I know my Redeemer lives, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold, and not another, though my reins be consumed within me. 28. But ye should say, why persecute we him, seeing the root of the matter is found in me? 29. Be ye afraid of the sword, for wrath brings the punishments of the sword, that ye may know that there is a judgment. So Job is telling them there is a judgment, and he knows his Redeemer lives. And this is why I can't imagine, this is why it's hard for me to understand how he can curse the day he was born and know his Redeemer lives. And if he knows his Redeemer lives, he knows the joy and the righteousness live with the Redeemer. And he's going to have, everything is going to be fine, way better than he has now. And he is going to be blessed. This guy, Job, is going to have twice as much as what he had before. And his 7 sons are going to be, he's going to be born again to him. And he's going to have 3 lovely daughters that they say everybody in the whole country wishes they would. All guys in the whole country wish they would meet up with them. They were so beautiful. So what I'm saying is to make the cursed be the day I was born, matching it up with I know my Redeemer lives. Can only make sense because he's a prophet, and he's really not talking about himself. He's talking about the son of perdition, Judas. Judas can say, "Cursed be the day I was born. Let darkness dwell upon that. Let it never be said that I was conceived." He could say that because, yes, he walked with Jesus. He was the familiar friend that lifted up his heel against him. He was the enemy. He betrayed him with a kiss. And all, what did he get? The love of money is the root of all evil. So he had that double mind that we all get, but we have to fight. We have to not be double-minded. We have to love the Lord and not love money. He lost that battle. He never really fought it enough. He never really battled it. He never really understood it. He allowed it to overtake him and to sin. It's not uncommon what Judas did, but what is uncommon is that he did it he was the only other son of perdition that's mentioned. The son of perdition is when Satan enters into you. And Satan enters into the Antichrist, the man. There's Antichrist, the entity, which is led by the spirit of Antichrist, But the Antichrist himself is Satan enters into him, and he's the son of perdition. And there's nothing that there's nothing that guy. There's nothing that guy could. I don't feel sorry for that guy at all. But Judas, I feel a little sorry for, because he was not. He was a prophet of God. A disciple. He was an apostle. He was sent out to the cities of Israel, and he was teaching them the good news, and he was blessing the children of Israel. And Satan fell as lightning, and he was amongst them where that happened. He was in the glory. He was at the supper. Only 12 were invited, and he was one of them. He had the books. He just couldn't put it together. And that's why apostasy right now is the worst thing that could happen. The apostasy is when you believe and you turn away from that belief, and you deny that belief. You deny your Savior after you believe and you know him. Cleanse your heart, you sinners. Sanctify your mind, you double-minded. James always comes with a good verse. Satan doesn't walk, and we noticed that Satan was walking on the earth, going to and from, and also coming to the meetings of the sons of God with God in heaven. He was in heaven and in the day of the cross. There was the battle, and that was when Satan was cast out of heaven, and that's when his days were numbered. And his days were numbered in the way where the only thing he could look forward to is a lake of fire, and he wanted he's out there trying to catch as many as he can right now as I'm talking. He wants to get double-minded people. He wants to get apostasy. He wants to get as many away from God as he can. And he's doing a good. His evil is getting worse and worse. We're starting to call good evil and evil good. Jerusalem is where the Lord was crucified. Is Sodom and Egypt. Remember, look at the verse. It says it. It's Sodom and Egypt, because the good is evil and the evil is good, and that's what we got right now. We got our protectors that are against us, and they lie to us, and it's not good. And that's how he's getting so many people to turn away from their love of God. People just need to know they gotta pass the test, like Job did. Job passed the test, and he got back double after that. Okay, so shalom, people, and I hope this blesses you and you get to understand what it was trying to say. All right, bye. Love yous. Jesus loves yous.